everyone, welcome to the Q3 training for those mentors working with new to profession teachers in their second year. If you found this recording, then you can also find the attendance link on the email. Please do click into the attendance link and record your attendance for the third quarter. Okay, so with no further ado, let's get going. Just a quick recalibration on the mentor expectations. The hope is that you'll have a chance to do 4 quarterly classroom visits. So hopefully you were able to your first quarter and your second quarter classroom visit. And so here we are in the third quarter. Hopefully all the classroom visit gods align and you're able to do that. Also, it would be good if you could complete your pre and post visit forms each quarter. Remember that this mentoring is funded out of 2A funds, and there is that accountability piece. So there are monitoring checks that happen, not annually, but there are monitoring checks. And so they randomly select files to look at. So that is why I do ask that you fill out your pre and post visit forms, and you'll find them in your Google Drive, and we'll get there later on in the Zoom session. We'll get into your folders and make sure that they're there for the third quarter. Okay, so y'all already know this, the classroom visit cycle, but just as a reminder, remember that the hope is that you'll have a chance to do the pre-conference where you're going to set a focus for the visit. Now, the focus could be the same as in first quarter, second quarter. It could be different. It's at the discretion of the teacher that you're working with. You want to let them be the decision maker, let them choose what focus they want for the visit. And you'll want to talk about that data collection piece. Again, it could be the same all year long, but let your mentee, let your new to profession teacher make that decision. So after you do the pre-conference, you're going to actually do the classroom visit where you're going to be a witness to the good. Remember that you want to document all the great things that you're seeing in the classroom. You want to make sure that you're honoring all the fabulous things they're doing, and you want to take the data that you agreed upon in the pre-conference, the pre-visit. And then lastly, you're going to do the post-conference, which is where you're going to review the data, talk about next steps, and reflect upon the data that was taken. End of semester surveys went out to both mentors and mentees at the end of December. Hopefully you had a chance to fill it out and give me some feedback on how your mentoring experience is going on. Now, if you have not had a chance to fill out the mentor survey, please do click into the link that you'll find on the email with the recording links, and click into that and give me some feedback on how your mentoring experience is. Also, I'm going to drop the link to the survey about the Q2 classroom visits. If you're watching the recording, please do click into the link and record when you did your Q2 classroom visit. Yeah, I know it was last year. I know might have been a couple months ago, but please do fill that form out to the best of your ability. So last time we met in Q2 in October, we talked a lot about the binder, that data collection binder. So I just want to touch base that you have that binder. We are going to go over additional data forms that you see in that binder. So tonight, we're going to talk about the consistent corrections chart. We're going to talk about ratio of interactions, the academic engagement monitoring form, another questioning chart, teacher talk versus student talk, and the classroom activities log. So that's those. I'm gonna really dig down deeper into each one of those forms. While I'm doing that, know that whatever is on this slide, you're looking at pages 7 and 8 in the data collection binder. Not only is a copy of the consistent corrections chart a blank Blackline master for you to use, but also the sample. So the consistent corrections chart is the first one we're going to talk about tonight. And so this particular form measures if corrections are being applied to students when not following expectations for behavior. So when teachers issue corrections inconsistently, for example, allowing side conversations to go unchecked one day and then correcting them the next, students become confused, complain that their teacher is unfair. Consistent corrections is super important, especially for newer teacher. This form only works when a teacher has explicitly set expectations for behavior. So one of my favorite sayings is, if you expect it, you must inspect it. So if your new to profession teacher has set expectations for behavior, but then is not consistently applying those across the board to students, then this is a great form for you to use. So remember that, again, if you expect it, you must inspect it. So that inspection is often a correction which reinforces the expectation to the entire class. So when you look at this form, you'll notice that there is the left-hand column allows you to call out the behaviors that you as a mentor are looking for. Those are the expectations that the mentee has decided that they want you to take data on. So on this particular sample, it's side conversations, calling out of seat, rude, disrespectful, bothering others, and off task. The middle column is a place where you as the mentor would tally if you observed those behaviors in the classroom. And then the last column on the right allows you to tally if those particular behaviors were corrected. Did the new to profession teacher attend to that misbehavior and give a correction? So if you notice at the bottom, you tally all the corrected behaviors in ratio to the actual behaviors that you're looking at. So in this particular sample, it looks like there was 14 corrected behaviors out of 21 observed behaviors, which quantitatively comes to 67%. So this particular sample shows a 67% consistent corrections rate. So calculating this data lets a mentee know if they're correcting misbehavior in a consistent way. Okay, I'm going to show this video, which leads into the ratio of interactions. And what I need to do is I need to make sure that I've shared my sound so that everyone will have a chance to hear it. And here we go.
The 3-to-1 ratio is basically, am I paying more attention to positive behavior or am I paying more attention to negative behavior? Now that's an important distinction because many people think you're talking about nice things teachers do versus mean things that they do or something else. Let's take the belittlement off the table and just assume that is not in a teacher's repertoire. So we're not even talking about the negatives having anything to do with that. The negatives are anytime I am having to pay attention to misbehavior that I consider to be negative misbehavior. I'm trying to use my interaction to shape you back to either following my rules or meeting my procedures or whatever they happen to be. And I'm basically saying that that negative may need to have been done because you may need that information right now. But I am also saying, in part, what I have just communicated to this child is, one way to get my attention is to do something that annoys me. So I want to make sure that I buttress against that possibility by you also saying, it is actually easier to get my attention and more satisfying and a better kind of attention to get attention from me when you're exhibiting pro-social behaviors. So that includes everything from like, if I had to correct you right before you left my class today, but I see you later in the hall and you're not even coming to my class, but I say, Devin, very good to see you. Having a good afternoon? There I am at a one-to-one with that kid, where that kid has seen, okay, he did correct my behavior and he said I need to be doing X or Y, but also he doesn't seem to hold a grudge. Just his saying, hey, good afternoon, Devin, yeah, how you doing? Has communicated. We're, at the very least, we're back to even. The next day when you're walking into my class, I say, hey, Devin, good to see you today. How are you? That's two, because it's 2 times that I've interacted with you when you were not engaged in misbehavior. Neither of them in this particular case involve praise, but they're 2 demonstrations that you don't need to screw up or annoy me to be noticed by me. And then if a little bit later in class I get the class engaged in an independent work period, and I just come over and I just look at the quality of your work, and I just say, hey, looks like you're doing great. Please let me know if you have any questions. That just acknowledges that I noticed your on-task behavior, and that puts me at 3-to-1. The 3-to-1 is more conservative than most behavioral experts suggest, so I encourage you to think about that as a minimum. But it's basically you want every kid to see all of the adults in this school are much more interested in capitalizing on and solidifying strength than they are just trying to catch weakness. If I'm not careful, I can end up paying so much attention to misbehavior that my kids who are starved for attention find, if I do what this guy wants, he doesn't even notice I'm here. But if I annoy him, I can get his attention like that. I definitely want to avoid that. But I want all of my kids to say, I notice their strengths. And that is done by paying attention to their positive behavior. Something I didn't mention with the group today, but should have, is with secondary teachers, some kids that they really have to watch for with this are the average kids. Because the average kids may never be causing me problems, which may never prompt, oh, I need to pay more positive attention to this kid. But there are also kids that can potentially just fade into the woodwork completely and remain completely unnoticed by me. So if you're never causing problems in class, but your abilities may not be outstanding, I at the very least need to be able to notice when I see you putting a little bit of extra effort into something, or the quality of your work is a little bit better, or the courage to participate a little bit more. I need to let you know that I noticed that effort.
So that was Randy Sprick talking about the 3-to-1 ratio. He wrote the book Coaching Classroom Management, which is and CHAMPS, which is a very popular classroom management approach. For our purposes today, we're going to be talking about ratio interactions as an opportunity to take data for your new to profession teacher that you're mentoring. So just like Randy Sprick talked about, is that a goal is to have 3 positive to every negative interaction. So the form that you're looking at in front of you gives you as a mentor the opportunity to take a little bit of data on positive and negative interactions with teachers. Now, know that teachers can learn a lot about themselves and how they guide learning by analyzing how often they attend to positive versus negative interactions with students. So again, that ratio of interaction lets a teacher know what she is giving attention to. Attention is both positive and negative and can be considered a currency. And unfortunately, our brains are wired to correct students. So this is a great opportunity to really analyze how many positive interactions are being given to students. So let's look at the form itself. It's on pages 11 and 12. Again, a copy of the Blackline Master as well as the sample is there. So you can, if you want to, code those positive and negative interactions. So the sample that you're looking at there is it's coded with two specific students. N would be Nick, A would be Amber, C would be class-wide positive or negative attention, and I would be individual. So if you look at the data that was taken, every time there was a positive or a negative attention given to a student, it was coded with eyes. You can see some eyes on the positive side. You can see some eyes on the negative side. Every time there was a class-wide, like a good job to the class, or maybe the class needs to quiet down kind of thing. A C is indicated on either the attention to positive or the attention to negative side. Anytime a negative or positive interaction was given to Nick, you'll see an N. And every time there was a positive or negative interaction given to Amber, you'll see it coded as an A. So as soon as the data is taken, you take the data, and then you count up how many interactions on each side. So this particular sample, there happened to be 12 positive and 14 negative. So if we take that 12 to 14 ratio, it actually comes down to a ratio of interactions is 1 to it's basically 1 to 1. So this particular sample, if you look at the goal of being 3 to 1 or better is the goal, this particular sample didn't meet that goal because it's darn near 1 to 1. So the goal again is 3 to 1. So in a perfect world, there would be like 30 positive interactions to 14 negative interactions. So again, this particular form allows anybody taking the data to analyze how often positive versus negative interactions are provided to students. And this form on pages 11 and 12 help you to do that. So the form on the previous slide was a class-wide form, and it allowed you to create a specific coding system. The particular form that you're looking at on pages 13 and 14 drill down to a particular student. So if we look at the sample, you'll notice there that we were just looking at one student, and this particular form is not coded with I's or C's or A's or N's. It actually is just tally marks. Every time there was a positive attention, there's a tally. Every time there's a negative attention given, then there's a tally. So the particular ratio, when counted up, is 14 to 1. So while the ratio of interaction is very close to 2 to 1, the goal is still 3 to 1. So again, the goal is 3 to 1 positive interactions versus negative interactions. And so the forms on pages 11, 12, 13, and 14 will help you gather that data if your new to profession teacher wants to put the focus on that area. The next forms on pages 15 and 16 in your data collection binder, it's called the academic engagement monitoring form. It's almost identical to the time on task form that I talked about in October in the Q2 Mentor Zoom. So although the form is called academic engagement monitoring form, really what you're looking at is time on task. It measures whether the students are engaged at 5-second intervals for a period of 5 minutes. So the way you would take this data is you would look at the class and you would begin on the first box and you would look at a student for 5 seconds. Are they engaged? Yes or no? Does it look like they're engaged? And if they look like they're engaged, they're doing what they should be doing, you give them a plus. Then you go to the next student, watch them for 5 seconds. Do they look engaged? Are they doing what they should be doing? Give them a plus or a minus. Go to the next student for 5 seconds, plus minus. Next student, 5 seconds, plus minus. So you would continue transitioning to every student in the class, assigning a plus or a minus to those 5 seconds until you get through all the students. Now, if there's only, let's say, 10 students in the class or even 20 students in the class, you would just start over again. So you would cycle through all the students, watching them for 5 seconds, and then you would cycle through again, and you would continue cycling through the students at 5-second intervals, assigning pluses or minuses until the end of the 5-minute time. So after you do that, you would count up how many pluses there are in ratio to the 60 intervals. So on this particular sample that you're looking at, there are 48 pluses and there's 65-second intervals. So that comes out to an 80% engagement percentage. So again, this academic engagement form is very similar to time on task. It gives a quantitative measure of, are students engaged? Are they doing what they should be doing? And this form will allow you to get a better piece of data on if that's happening in the classroom. The next one I want to talk about is the question chart. Now, last time, quarter 2, we talked about a question chart, a question form, which allowed you to identify where the questioning was happening in relation to Bloom's taxonomy. So this particular question chart actually digs down deeper into kinds of questions, types of questions, as well as the Bloom's technology. So similar to last month, in that question chart, the mentor or the person who's taken the data would jot down each of the questions that are being asked during the lesson. And then after the lesson, the mentor or whoever's taken the data would assign what kind of question it was, what type of question, and then assign a level from Bloom's taxonomy. When we think about kinds of questions, is it opinion or is it right or wrong? Opinion questions don't have right or wrong answers. Teachers usually ask right or wrong questions to confirm whether students know the content or can demonstrate the skills they have been learning. Type of questions are usually open or closed. Open questions have an infinite number of responses, while closed questions have a finite number of responses. There is an infinite number of responses to, what do you think of Hemingway? Versus there's only one answer for what was Hemingway's first novel. So again, this particular form allows you to classify questions into the kind, is it an opinion or right or wrong? Type, is it open or closed? And then the level. And typically that falls into Bloom's taxonomy. Does the question fall into remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, or create question? So this particular chart provides that data for a mentee if they choose to shine the spotlight on questioning for that quarter 3 classroom visit. Okay, here's an example of what that question chart could look like. So you'll notice on the sample there are 7 questions, and each of those 7 questions, what kind of question, what type of question, and the level on tax Bloom's taxonomy has been identified. So on number 1, you'll notice that, can you list 3 types of rocks? It's a right or wrong question. It's a closed question, and it looks like it falls into the remember on Bloom's taxonomy. Look at number 5. You'll notice that what kind of question is? It's an opinion question. So there aren't any right or wrong questions. For opinion questions, you'll notice there that it's been identified as an open question, which means that it has an infinite number of responses, and then it falls on to evaluate on Bloom's taxonomy. And then last, let's just look at number 7. Number 7 is, what is AI? What kind of question is that? That's a right or wrong. It falls into a closed type of question, and then it's on understand of the Bloom's taxonomy. So there's a little down and dirty on that sample. On pages 23 and 24, you'll see the teacher talk versus student talk form. This particular form measures how much is the teacher talking, how much is the student talking. Research shows that teachers should limit their speaking to 20 to 30%. Students should be talking like 80% of the time. Hattie identified class discussions as a strategy that has a high impact on student achievement. 0.82 effect size. Anything over the 0.4 hinge point has an impact on student learning, according to the Hattie's research. And a good rule of thumb is to implement some kind of change after 10 minutes of student talk. So for focus to continue, there must be some kind of change in the way the brain is dealing with the information. So that change could be like a turn and talk, group discussion, check for understanding with a question to the group, or even an activity. So you'll notice that there's the black line master. As always, the black line master is in the data collection binder, and then the sample. Let's look at this sample. This sample, it lists when the teacher is talking, and then it lists how much time the students are interacting. So I'm noticing here that the teacher gave 3 minutes of instructions, and then there was a writing activity for 7 minutes. Teacher put on a video, 12 minutes, and then there was a turn and talk for 4 minutes. There were some more instructions given by the teacher, and then there was a partner reading activity for 18 minutes. Then it looks like there was some questioning and answering, 10 minutes for teacher, 10 minutes for the student. So when we tally that down, we calculate how much time the teacher was talking within that 70 minutes of class period, in comparison to the time that the students were talking in that 70-minute class period. The teacher was talking 44% of the time. The students were talking 56% of the time. So again, the research shows that students should be doing most of the talking. So for this particular sample, it would be better if the students were talking more than 56%. So this sample shows that there's definitely some work to be done if you're following that 80-20 ratio. At the end of the day, students should be talking more than the teacher, and that happened on this sample, so that should be celebrated. Okay, so this is our last data form for the afternoon. On pages 25 and 26, it's the classroom activities log, and this is an opportunity for you as a mentor to analyze the instructional minutes versus the non-instructional minutes, and it gives you an opportunity to analyze the structure of a lesson. So the whole goal here is to figure out how much downtime do these students really have. So let's have a look at the sample. You'll notice that there's a place to list the time the beginning routine began and the end time for that beginning routine. How long was the beginning routine? It was 7 minutes. Let's look at the whole group whole group instruction, it looks like there was some whole group instruction between 9:12 and 9:30, then for 18 minutes, and then there was some more teacher-led instruction from 9:44 to 9:52 for another 8 minutes. So on the right-hand side, you'll notice that those minutes are tallying up. So if the beginning routine was 7 minutes, and then the teacher-led instruction was 26 minutes, we come down to the small group instruction, and there's the times for the small group instruction, 9:35 to 9:40, 9:57 to 10:02. There's 5-minute small group instruction, and then some independent work. Looks like it's for 7 minutes. At the bottom there, you'll notice that there is a place to log the time the transitions are taking within the classroom. It looks like there was 3 different transitions, and the transitions were 3 minutes or 2 minutes, coming down to 8 minutes of transition time. So this particular classroom activities log allows you to analyze that there was only 8 minutes of downtime in that particular lesson. So this sample shows the hierarchy of a very structured lesson with very little downtime. So this particular form gives you as a mentor an opportunity to look at the structure of a lesson. Okay, so the logistics for your Q3 classroom visit, remember that it looks different in every partnerships. If you are somebody who just wants to go visit your mentee's classroom during your planning time, that's fine. If you need a sub, that's absolutely fine as well. All you need to do is reach out to me with a date for the full day or the half-day sub. Remember that I can provide the funding, but not the manpower. So you'll want to create an absence in ASOP. Make sure that you print out the sign-in that I provide to you, and get the signatures that you need and return that back to me. And know that I always give instructions on how to fill out your time card on that email. So there's the logistics for getting into your mentee's classroom to do that Q3 visit. You want to check your Google folders to make sure you have the Q3 pre-conference and post-conference forms. Make sure that you have the light blue. Know that I got in there and I was organizing your folder for you, but everyone should have a Q3 pre-conference. You should have a Q3 post-conference, and it should be in that light blue color. If you don't see them, please do reach out to me, and I'm happy to make any changes that need to happen. And last but not least, our Q4 second year mentor Zoom is going to be on March 19th. Save the date and know that I am happy to answer any questions. Feel free to reach out anytime, and have a nice evening, everyone.